Let's get started with our first news. Michael Chandler fires back at Dustin Poirier. Michael Chandler has hit back at Dustin Poirier after Poirier went off on him this week. Dustin did not hold back, labeling Chandler as a cheater and calling him fake. Poirier went on a rant saying, "He's fake, bro. He might be a good person at home, but from my personal experience, he's fake." Michael Chandler, however, is not bothered by Poirier's words. He responded to the harsh criticism by saying that he lives rent-free in Dustin's head. Chandler made it clear that he doesn't even think about Poirier, while Poirier is clearly losing sleep over him. He said, "I don't have a reaction. I don't lose a wink of sleep thinking about Dustin Poirier and how he thinks about me. Unfortunately, obviously, I live rent-free in his head, and he does lose sleep over me, so I don't think about it." But that's not all. Chandler went on to say that he would gladly welcome a fight against Dustin Poirier, not out of animosity, not because he wants to get back at him, but simply because he respects Poirier as a legend. "I'll tell you what, man, I would definitely welcome me being Dustin's retirement fight. He's a legend, and I say that because he's a legend. It's not like I want to get back the loss, or because I have any kind of animosity. I don't want to fight him because of the disagreements that we've had. I just want to fight him because he's a legend, and I would." Now Chandler has his eyes set on Paddy Pimblett first. He is confident that he will run through Pimblett, and once he gets that win, he will be ready for Poirier. So, we'll see. I'll heal up after April, after I starch Paddy Pimblett, and he's talking about fighting in July or August. I wouldn't mind going to New Orleans at that time of the year. Either way, I'm coming to fight. I'm going to be there for his retirement fight out of respect, but I wouldn't mind stepping into the octagon with him. We'll see. So, what do you guys think? Will Michael Chandler versus Dustin Poirier 2 happen? Will Dustin take that fight, or is he done with Chandler? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Moving on to another news, Chael Sonnen believes Ilia Topuria needs to fight a contender before Islam Makhachev. Sonnen is not convinced that Ilia Topuria deserves an immediate title shot at lightweight. Instead, he believes that Topuria needs to prove himself against a top contender before stepping in the cage with Islam Makhachev. According to Sonnen, the featherweight champion has work to do before he earns the right to challenge the lightweight king. Sonnen specifically mentioned that he would like to see Topuria tested against either Charles Oliveira or Arman Tsarukyan. These two are among the elite in the lightweight division, and a win over either one would legitimize Topuria's claim for a title shot. On his YouTube channel, Sonnen broke it down, saying, "Charles Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan are in a battle, and the battle is for Ilia. Charles is not likely to go right into a title fight against Islam. The only reason I say that is because Islam wants some fresh blood. Ilia is not going to get a title shot, even though he would fit the request of being fresh blood. You've got Ramadan, Ilia is vacating, and there has been no mention of Ilia in title discussions. It would look as though Ilia is going to have to do a fight first." Sonnen continued, "Ilia versus Islam right now works, but it's not a massive fight. However, if Ilia defeats Charles first is a completely different conversation. It can't happen right now. You've got to have Ilia prove that he can do it, and that either takes you through Tsarukyan or it takes you through Charles." This perspective makes a lot of sense. While Topuria has star power, his resume at lightweight is non-existent. He has never fought in the division, let alone against a top contender. Meanwhile, Tsarukyan and Oliveira have battled elite opponents, and a fight with Topuria would be a true test of whether he belongs at 155 pounds. Of course, there are many fans who would love to see Topuria get a title shot immediately, especially after his dominant performance against Alexander Volkanovski. But does he really deserve it? That's the big question. So, what do you guys think? Should Ilia Topuria fight Charles Oliveira or Arman Tsarukyan first? Or should the UFC go ahead and book Islam versus Ilia immediately? Let us know in the comments below. Moving on to another news, Alex Pereira no longer wants to train with Jon Jones. Alex Pereira has shut down the idea of training with Jon Jones at the moment, making it clear that he is avoiding it as a precaution in case they end up fighting in the future. While Pereira has previously expressed interest in training with the heavyweight champion, he now believes that it wouldn't be a smart move. He explained that it doesn't make sense for them to train together now, but if a potential fight between them were to happen, he would be open to training with Jon afterward. In a recent interview with Bloody Elbow, Pereira explained his decision, saying, "To be honest, I don't think that makes as much sense anymore." Back when I said that I would like to fight at heavyweight, people already put the dots together and mentioned Jon Jones. That's something that is speculated, even if it's just by the fans. So I wouldn't want to go and train with him now, and then if we end up fighting, people will start saying a bunch of stuff about whatever happened in training. I think it wouldn't make sense now, but if we were to fight one day and then go train, I think it would make total sense. Clearly, Pereira is thinking ahead and wants to avoid any controversy that might arise if he trains with Jones now and then fights him later. He understands that the fans and media would speculate heavily about what went down in training, and he doesn't want to give anyone a reason to create unnecessary narratives. On the topic of Jon Jones potentially fighting Tom Aspinall, Pereira shared his thoughts, saying, "I won't necessarily be studying the fight, but I'd watch it closely. Obviously, any heavyweight fight is already exciting, and then you put in Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall. I think that's a very exciting fight, so I'll be watching closely, but as a fan." Pereira's decision to focus on his own path instead of training with Jones makes a lot of sense. If a fight between them ever becomes a real possibility, there would be no confusion, no secrets, and no drama about whether they had trained together. So what do you guys think? Did Alex Pereira make the right choice? Should he have trained with Jon Jones anyway? Or was he smart to avoid it? Let us know in the comments below. Moving on to another news, Robert Whittaker thinks the trash talk between Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira is hilarious. Whittaker finds the back and forth trash talk between Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira absolutely hilarious. On the most recent episode of the MMA Arcade podcast, Whittaker broke down the matchup and gave his perspective on what Ankalaev's game plan should be. Despite Ankalaev insisting that he will stand and strike with Pereira, Whittaker believes that would be a mistake. He explained that if he were coaching Ankalaev, he would be urging him to shoot for Pereira's legs immediately. You know, first and foremost, I love how Ankalaev is just like sending death threats. Dude, I love it because it's not corny. He's just fully locked in like, brother, I'm coming to kill you. That's it. And honestly, that's what makes this fight so interesting. Whittaker then compared Ankalaev's situation to Colby Covington, saying that he has seen fighters talk about a game plan, but then fail to execute it when it matters. Whenever I bet against Colby Covington, I expect him, like on paper, to run in there, shoot 5 times a minute, and gas his opponent. But then his fight against Leon Edwards, you're like, what happened, Colby? You know what I mean? This happens time and time again. Guys talk about how they know what they need to do, but when the fight starts, they abandon the game plan. Whittaker stressed that Ankalaev needs to take Pereira seriously as a striker, and the best chance to win would be to immediately go for the takedown. And I want to see, like, if I'm coaching Ankalaev, I'm like, I want him dropping to both knees and shooting from across the cage. 100%. I want him army crawling to Pereira's ankles. I don't care if it looks bad. I don't care if the fans boo. Just get him on the ground, because once Pereira gets comfortable, it's game over. Whittaker highlighted the fact that Pereira is extremely dangerous when he stays on his feet, and even when he gets hurt, he is still confident in his striking. Every single stand-up fight that Pereira is in, even when he's hurt, even when he's getting hit, he is just so comfortable. The guy will stay there all night if you let him. He doesn't panic, he doesn't back down. That's why it's so silly to fight him there. Whittaker made it clear that if Ankalaev really wants to win, he needs to grapple. But the question is, will he actually do it? So what do you think? Does Magomed Ankalaev have a real chance if he strikes with Pereira, or will he play it smart and go for the takedown? Let us know in the comments below. Finally, Chael Sonnen says, Paddy Pimblett is in an awkward position. Paddy Pimblett finds himself in an awkward position ahead of his UFC 314 bout against Michael Chandler. This isn't just another fight for Paddy. There's a backstory that makes this matchup even more interesting. Sonnen recalled an interaction between Paddy and Chandler when Paddy first signed with the UFC, pointing out that Paddy was actually a big fan of Chandler and was genuinely excited to meet him. Paddy was so excited to meet him. Chandler had already been around for a long time, had wars with Eddie Alvarez, and was already a big name in the sport. Meanwhile, Paddy was brand new. People were still trying to figure him out. They didn't know if they should take him seriously or if he was just the guy with the funny haircut. Sonnen fan pointed out that back then no one could have predicted that Paddy and Chandler would ever share the octagon. Even Chandler himself didn't think it was a possibility. Chandler was asked at the time, "Would you ever consider fighting Paddy?" And his answer was, "No way. By the time Paddy breaks into the top 5, I'll be long done." That was his mindset. Chandler wasn't looking at Paddy as a potential opponent. He was earmarked for the big payday with Conor McGregor. He was only supposed to have 1 or 2 more fights, and then that was it. But now, things have changed. Now here we are, and they've signed that fight. Sonnen laughed, pointing out how unexpected the situation is. That's awkward. That's an awkward spot for Paddy to be in. Think about it. Paddy idolized Chandler when he first got into the UFC. He looked up to him, respected him, and never thought they'd have to go to war. But now, Paddy has to fight the guy he once fanboyed over. That's got to be a strange feeling. At the same time, it's a big opportunity for Paddy. This is his chance to prove he belongs among the elite in the lightweight division. If he beats Chandler, it's a game changer. But if he loses, it could be a major setback. So what do you think? Is Paddy ready for this moment, or will Chandler remind him why he once looked up to him? Let us know in the comments below.